Good day, everyone. Let's start with today's agenda. I wanted to give you a glimpse of the topics that we're going to cover today. First, we're going to highlight some of the conditions that are driving a demand for finance transformation. Next, we'll give a high-level overview of process optimization and touch upon some of the enabling technologies involved in finance transformations. And then we'll close with some insights from RGP's latest research. This research illustrates some of the critical success factors that need to be considered when embarking on a transformation effort. Before I jump in, I should probably introduce myself quickly. I'm Andy Jones. I've been with RGP for a little over 6 years. I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of leading RGP's global finance transformation practice. My background is a mix of technology, business strategy, and process improvement. RGP is a global consultancy that brings expertise, capability, competency, and capacity. Our finance transformation team helps clients with both revolutionary and evolutionary change in finance and accounting and adjacent functions. We do this by leveraging and deploying leading practices and innovative technologies. So, finance transformation has been a hot topic for the past several years, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. We've been seeing factors that are influencing the demand for finance transformation across a range of organizations in virtually every industry. In the next few minutes, I'll spend some time going over each of the 3 areas you see mentioned here. But first, bear in mind that finance transformation comes in many, many different forms. In some organizations, finance transformation involves a significant upheaval of the status quo with significant changes to the way business is conducted. This kind of revolutionary transformation probably involves the replacement or upgrade of an ERP. It may involve subledgers and ancillary systems. These changes could impact the finance target operating model, the way finance and accounting services are delivered and organized within a firm. They could involve multiple business units and departments. Sometimes, though, the scale and scope of the changes aren't as massive or drastic. They may be localized to a specific process or sub-process. They may only impact a single operating unit or department, and their changes may be much more evolutionary, with small incremental improvements in the way of finance and accounting services are performed and delivered. Whether it's massive or incremental, we'll explore elements of each of these today. Traditionally, the aim of finance transformation was centered around ensuring that the company's cost of performing the finance and accounting process and all its sub-processes are competitive and kept in check. This means that standardizing process, to ensure the company as a whole can scale without commensurate growth within the finance and accounting department and the number of personnel that carry out those services. These days, the role of the CFO is undergoing a transformation of its own, though. CFOs are still responsible for driving cost improvements and productivity enhancements in their own function and across the enterprise. But more and more, CFOs are called upon to partner with a CEO and business unit heads to provide insights into what's driving the business and how the company should be investing for the future. As such, we're seeing more and more transformation efforts being aimed at freeing up time and capacity to ensure that the finance organization can deliver and analyze data, both financial data and operational data, to provide business insight. We foresee more and more of finance and accounting's time and energy spent delivering these insights and less time doing transactional work. And transformational efforts will shift in favor of delivering these insights. Of course, in order to achieve this, you need to make sure that your processes are optimized and streamlined and automated so that you have time to deliver those insights. Another factor driving the need for finance transformation is the F&A workforce is changing. F&A talent is reevaluating their options. Talent is looking for variety, choice, and flexibility. Before 2020, a lot of our organizations were focused on driving cost out of the F&A function, obtaining productivity savings year over year. Many times that meant cutting current headcount. Now, there's a lot different focus. They're focused on retaining employees. You've all heard about the Great Resignation. Some call it the Great Alignment or the Great Reassessment. Whatever you call it, businesses are facing unprecedented rates of resignations, and there's a record number of unfilled positions. Unemployment is at historical lows. On top of that, AICPA data shows that the number of accounting graduates is declining year over year. Compounding this even further, Gallup says that about half the working population in the US is actively job searching and watching for opportunities. Replacing productive employees is costly. Searches aren't cheap. Right now, competition for good talent is fierce, and wage inflation has to be considered. For many companies that have antiquated processes and systems, it can be even more difficult and more expensive to attract talent because people are looking for more balance. And remember that it takes time for an employee, even a good one, to become maximally productive. These points may sound obvious, but frankly, they've been overlooked by a number of organizations until recently. The big reset that we saw during the pandemic showed that employees, including finance and accounting professionals, reevaluated their work-life balance. Organizations with manual processes tend to have staffers who work long days and have little time to analyze data and check for mistakes or provide insight. For years, the F&A function was dominated by employees from the baby boomer generation, and that's changing too. Now it's Gen Xers and millennials, with millennials representing the highest proportion of the workforce. A number of studies show that millennials as digital natives are drawn to firms that leverage technology, not just because the technology helps them get their work done, but it enables them to contribute ideas that have a positive impact on the business. And that's a key motivating factor for millennials. These workers have different expectations and motivations regarding the nature of their work. Millennials are, for the most part, comfortable working with technology, and they embrace automation. In fact, in many cases, they demand it. Finance leaders need to take this into account as they plan for their future state. We spoke earlier about finance transformation and how CFOs are shifting their attention and energy from cost and productivity to driving business insight across the enterprise. They're partnering with the CEO and business unit heads and other stakeholders to share data-driven insights about the business. And given this, CFOs are now playing a critical role in overall digital transformation of the entire enterprise. According to Sage, about 3/4 of CFOs are responsible for driving digital transformation in their organizations. Gartner breaks down the component of digital transformation into two broad areas: business optimization and business transformation. For today's purposes, we're going to focus on business optimization. As we're here to talk about finance transformation, if I use the term transformation, I'm likely talking about some of the elements that you see here on this chart within the optimization side of the slide. Back in 2020, as we were facing the pandemic, a Gartner study said that despite the outlook and the unknown future, 70% of board members of organizations wanted to accelerate digital transformation efforts. Now in 2023, we're still seeing mixed economic signals. We see signs of a potential recession, low unemployment, inflation, but CFOs and finance leaders are still doubling down on transformation. In fact, 78% of CFOs and finance leaders say that they're either scaling up their digital transformation plans or keeping them at their current pace, with only 22% scaling back or pausing their digital initiatives. Here's a look at the finance maturity model. Organizations lacking optimized process and fragmented technologies are shown on the lower left of the curve there. At the end of the day, finance transformation efforts are all about driving individual processes, or collectively the whole finance and accounting function, up the maturity curve toward optimized and automated processes. They provide processes that provide data visibility and to all key stakeholders. By standardizing and streamlining your processes, you provide more opportunity to automate while improving accuracy and control. In this diagram, you see the basic components of a transformation effort. You want to start with a strategy or vision of your desired end state. This may involve deciding on a target operating model. For example, you may want to centralize some of your transactional work in a shared services group. Of course, this visioning process doesn't have to be grandiose. For some, it may mean simply deciding on some key metrics and outcomes you want to drive. Either way, you need a vision of your desired outcomes. Next, you're going to want to do some analysis. This usually involves reviewing, or in some cases, developing your process documentation and understanding the requirements of your stakeholders. It involves examining leading practices and what's the art of the possible, and doing a gap analysis between your current state and your desired future state. Next, you'll begin to develop standardized processes. You'll, at this time, need to shore up any data deficiencies as well, ensuring that your data is complete, accurate, and automation ready. From there, you'll begin the transformation itself, which will involve institutionalizing your new processes and systems and communicating with your team to ensure that they understand their role in the transformation and the manner in which they'll adopt new ways of working. At this point, you'll begin accelerating your use of automation. Next, you'll want to further optimize using data-driven techniques to enhance your performance. And most importantly, one thing to keep in mind, your organization and everybody in it needs to understand that transformation and optimization efforts are a journey. It's not a one-time event. You really want, if you're adopting a continuous improvement mindset, optimization is indeed an ongoing effort. Here we see some of the various processes and sub-processes that are often targets of finance transformation efforts. The finance close process or report process always seems to be on the forefront. Many organizations have significant opportunities as well to improve their order to cash cycle or their procure to pay cycle. And given the periodic cycle that we saw in the pandemic, as we oscillated from pessimism to optimism and back again, that forced organizations to increase the number of times they were forecasting and reforecasting. And the pace of these modeling efforts had to speed up accordingly. In today's climate, the attention remains on FP&A to get better, faster, more accurate, and more insightful. I wish I had more time today to dive into the specifics of some of these other processes, but keep your eyes out for future webinars on those. A huge part of transformation is examining and improving process. You've probably heard that already. But meaningful process improvement likely involves the trifecta of people, process, and technology. To ensure your transformation efforts are effective, you'll need to develop a roadmap that considers each of these elements, remembering that your current state and organizational constraints will influence the pace and magnitude of change that you can expect to achieve. It's likely to be a series of steps in a journey. On this chart, we see the steps involved in assessing process and identifying those pain points and bottlenecks in the process and getting processes automation ready to ensure that they are optimized. And that, you're also going to want to, at this point, again, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that your underlying data is clean and complete. In the interest of time, I'll skip a deeper dive on the techniques and tools that we use, but trust the analysis that's done at the early stages really sets the stage for how quickly you can get to that future state design. So that work is extremely critical. So let's talk a little bit about technology here. In reality, you're going to need a variety of technologies to achieve your transformation goals. When you're considering automating, it's important to use the right tools for the job. Factors to consider are time to implement, cost to implement and maintain, and of course, the scope and scale of your desired outcomes. If you can automate a process within your ERP or your financial system, chances are that's the best way to do it. In some cases, a purpose-built platform might be needed to help you drive the insights and level of automation you're after. And there certainly are an amazing, there certainly is an amazing array of purpose-built platforms out there. Despite the advances in ERP and purpose-built platforms, however, you may need things like RPA or APA or hyper-automation to help fill capability gaps that a given platform or ecosystem of applications may have, or to bridge the gap between where you are now and the time your new ERP is implemented. Companies are still investing heavily in technology to achieve their transformation goals. About 2/3 of companies plan to invest in cloud ERP technology in the next 3 years, and about the same percentage will tackle advanced data analytics, either built into their cloud ERP or via analytics platforms. Almost half of firms plan to make investments in data storage to capitalize on data monetization and that craze, and about half again at planning to invest in RPA. Some other technologies make the list, albeit to a lesser extent. I think AI is gaining momentum. I think first because platforms are starting to embed AI and machine learning into their products. And second, I think because there's been some great advancements in the past couple of years to provide on-ramps to get them to good use. RGP recently completed some great research, and I'd like to share some of the insights that are directly relevant to large-scale finance transformation projects or transformational efforts in general. Research shows that one factor that affects the complexity of transformational projects is the composition of the workforce, especially those who are involved in transformational type efforts themselves. The blend of participants who work in the office and those who work remotely can really introduce complexity. As you can see here from these statistics, more than a third of the workforce is still working from home these days, and I don't know that that's going to change a whole lot. That's up threefold from just 3 years ago. Companies must ensure that they have effective means of driving project success when working in a blended work environment. Collaboration tools are key, but there's more to it than that. Another factor that influences project complexity is team composition. Organizationally diverse teams are teams that consist of a mixture of traditional employees, professionals from consultancies, staffing companies, and independent contractors or gig workers. Pre-pandemic, an average of 33% of team members were non-employees. Today, that number has grown to 43%, and companies predict it will continue to increase. Before the pandemic, employees comprised about 62% of project teams on average. This has decreased to 55% today, and our respondents forecast that this figure will continue to decline as well. The great news is that consultancies and gig workers bring lots of experience and creativity to projects, but this diversity introduces complexity that has to be managed. Our study found that only a few companies consistently achieve their key goals on mission-critical projects, only about 1 in 6. Companies that embrace a more enlightened approach to project leadership do better. One that values strong project leaders, one that capitalizes on talent from outside the four walls of the organization, and applies new and emerging collaboration tools. Those are the ones that can really deliver meaningful business gains. Our research uncovered that companies reporting the highest levels of project success have also seen their market capitalization steadily increase. Companies that have measured hybrid and organizationally diverse work say that they've gained a competitive advantage. We examine this claim by comparing the companies with the greatest success in executing their critical projects to the companies with the least project success. And here's what we found. Roughly 15% of companies said that their critical projects achieved or exceeded their key goals. From 2017 to about October 2022, the average market capitalization for this group increased 63%. We call this group project execution leaders. 24% of the companies said that less than half their projects, of their critical projects, achieved or exceeded their goals. Their market cap declined an average of 24% over that same period of time. So there appears to be a direct correlation between critical project success and the company's overall market capitalization. In today's project economy, many businesses run multiple critical business projects simultaneously. Those undertaking finance transformation efforts, you're going to have to manage multiple work streams if it's a broad scale initiative. And these are going to need to fit in within all the other projects that your team is undertaking at the same time. It's not easy to get that right, and you're going to need strong project management and a strong PMO in order to drive change in the direction and get the results that you're looking for. Almost 3/4 of project execution leaders believe that highly effective project managers give them a strong competitive advantage. The larger the firm, the more likely it is to perceive that project leadership is a competitive advantage and a differentiator. The Project Management Institute forecasted a need for 88 million individuals in project management roles by 2027. They also forecasted a shortage of talent available to fulfill those roles. As a finance executive leading a global pharmaceutical company told us, sometimes the best people are involved in multiple projects, so we don't have the capacity, we don't have the specific skill set internally. And that's when we lean heavily on external partners to deliver that capability. So the takeaway here, ensure your transformation project is being led by a strong PM. So a few things to summarize today. It's clear that companies need to free up more time for analysis and insight. Now is a great time for finance transformation. Streamline your process, eliminate manual work, integrate or rationalize disparate systems and data silos. Doing these will pay dividends. And remember, transformation done right can help attract and retain high-value employees. You can increase your success rate by ensuring you leverage functional experts from both inside and outside your organization. You can increase that success by deploying enabling technologies to automate and provide consolidated visibility to help provide deeper insights. And you can drive progress and change through effective program and project management, people with high EQ and functional expertise who can help you navigate complex organizations and complex business issues.